Good afternoon, Express fans. Welcome into the series finale of Sidetracked, presented by Dell Technologies. My name's Andrew Feltz. We're going to have some fun this afternoon, our final show of the year. It's been such a blast getting to share so many baseball stories with different guests and interact with you guys as fans here on Facebook Live. But we looked at it and we said, you know what, it's time for myself and for our marketing staff with the Express to kind of shift gears a little bit and focus on some really cool experiential events that we have coming up at Dell Diamond in the coming days and weeks. Stay tuned, Express social media, right here on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're going to be kind of rolling out different programs over the next couple days and weeks. So stay tuned there. Lots of really fun stuff ahead. But before we get to that, we're going to have some fun. Like we said, our final show. We have another great lineup of guests this afternoon. Our first segment, joining us momentarily, is going to be the Round Rock Express Manager of Baseball Operations, as well as the Director of Express Camps, that is Chase Almendarez. After him, we're going to have a fun conversation with Brian McTaggart, who's entering his 17th season as the beat reporter for the Houston Astros on MLB.com. Finally, we're going to close our last interview here this afternoon with Round Rock Express infielder Nick Tanielu. Excited to catch up with those three guys. And if you're new to our program here, welcome in. We've done this every week for about the last 2 months, getting caught up, talking baseball with members of our community, familiar faces from the Express front office, and of course some of your favorite E-Train players and coaches. We encourage you on our last show, get in on the conversation, leave us comments, ask questions right there in the chat. We're going to do our best to answer those either live on air this afternoon or via the chat feature here on Facebook. Well, of course, our first order of business before we get too deep into the show is our Railyard Team Store Item of the Week presented by Viatran. This week, we are highlighting our Round Rock Express Rojo Johnson Mustache Tee, now in stock at the Railyard Team Store and available for $30. Of course, we recently celebrated our 10-year anniversary of Rojo's infamous pitching appearance out at Dell Diamond. If you're not familiar with the story, again, check us out on social media, rrexpress.com. We got links to that, reliving the 10-year anniversary of Rojo's appearance. And if you don't know, Rojo bears a striking resemblance to Will Ferrell. So I definitely encourage you, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But that's our Railyard Team Store Item of the Week. You can check out the entire inventory of Express and Rojo Johnson merchandise available digitally through the Railyard Team Store by visiting rrexpress.com. Well, it's now time for our leading off segment presented by HEB. As we mentioned, we're excited to be joined by Chase Almendarez. He is the Manager of Baseball Operations for the Round Rock Express and also serves as the Director of Express Camps. So he not only oversees our entire summer camp operation, but also plays an integral role in team travel, umpire travel, visiting team travel to and from Dell Diamond each and every season. Well, Chase, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us here this afternoon. I got to start off, you might be the most positive, most upbeat person that we have on our entire staff. So I'm curious, how have you been through all this situation that we're dealing with?
Thanks for having me on. Well, I'm excited because yesterday was our first day of camp. It's been a fun time to be outside and finally have some form of baseball within our ballpark. What we preach to all of our campers is the ACE philosophy. How can we control our attitude each day? How can we concentrate on each day? And also our effort, how can we maximize that each day?
Yeah, and I'm excited to get into Express Camps, but before we get too deep into that, I kind of want to ask you about you. Your position, of course, is our Manager of Baseball Operations. There's so much that you do behind the scenes that, the casual fan has no idea, with booking flights and hotels and rental cars and all that stuff that goes into your job. Can you kind of take us through some of the responsibilities of your role as a Manager of Baseball Operations for the Express?
So really what my role is here is basically everything baseball related that's on the field I oversee. You look at our regular AAA season, I'm coordinating travel for our AAA team, the Express, along with making sure the visiting team, when they arrive, the arrival's fine. When they depart, everything's good there. And also even the umpires. I serve as the umpire liaison for our club and making sure they're set. But also all the other baseball events we host, such as UIL, the UIL state tournament, baseball camps, all of those things, even high school games that we host, just kind of overseeing those and making sure the flow is going right and the event's right.
Well, Chase, I think you're so well suited for the role that you do have. Of course, not only your familiarity with the Express from growing up, but you played college baseball. You wrapped up your collegiate career at the University of Houston Victoria as a catcher in 2018. How much of a benefit do you think it is that you kind of have that player's perspective when it comes to long bus trips and early flights? All the stuff that you experienced in college, that these guys in the minor leagues are kind of dealing with a similar thing.
Yeah, so my first few years of college was actually spent at the junior college level. And so that budget there is very tight. And so travel between those cities was horrible. It was terrible. But going to University of Houston Victoria, you're going to a 4-year school, and I was blessed enough to play for Terry Poole, former Astros outfielder back in the 80s. And he really stressed the importance of team travel and how to prepare us mentally, physically to be ready for games and all of that stuff. So I've kind of taken his philosophy to our guys. I want these guys to have the best travel as it can be. PCL travel is tough, but early morning bus rides or early morning bus flights, just making sure we're taking those appropriate flights and really thinking of them first when we travel.
Well, I mean, there's so much planning and preparation that goes into travel, and like we said, hotels or rental cars, and there's just so much. And I mean, you start before the current season's even over booking for the next year. Now we're in this situation where we have no idea when our season's going to resume, what that's going to look like, what the travel requirements are going to be. In your role, how tough has it been, just all the unknown, saying we might get a notification tomorrow that says, hey, we're going to play on X date. How tough has it been for you from a coordination and from a planning standpoint?
Well, it's certainly been frustrating. I think, all the work we've put in on the off season, booking flights, booking all of that, and then basically to go to waste. So basically what we've done is canceled all, of course, the April trips, all the May trips, and all the June trips. So if we are to start a season in July, at least we still have all of those travel agreements booked and we're set there. But definitely frustrating when we had to cancel and confirm with the flights, if we could get refunds back, bus trips, all of that. But certainly frustrating, but kudos to the PCL, Dwight, and all the clubs around the league have done a great job just communicating with one another. And, we are ready if the season is a go, how to travel.
Well, that's been the one nice thing is, we're minor league baseball is a family, right? So the other 15 clubs in the PCL, the other 159 clubs across the country, we're all dealing with this at the same time and can kind of lean on each other on that front. We are visiting with Chase Almendarez. He is the manager of baseball operations for the Round Rock Express. He's joining us here on Sidetracked, presented by HEB. Chase, you're also the director of Express Camps. That's where I want to kind of turn our focus now. But every year we host a variety of baseball camps, softball camps, open to kids of various ages, various skill levels. We were really excited a couple weeks ago when Texas Governor Greg Abbott kind of laid the foundation for summer camps to return and what that looks like from a safety standpoint, from an execution standpoint. But kind of before we get into that, can you give us an overview of the entire Express Camps program?
Yeah, so in previous summers, we've hosted 5 baseball camps and along with a softball camp. This summer, with the different guidelines that came out, we were actually able to extend those baseball camps. We're actually hosting a baseball camp every week in June and July. And then that first week in August, we're going to host a softball camp with Kat Osterman.
Yeah, I want to talk about Kat here in a second, but going back to you, of course, there's so much that you do behind the scenes, getting these camps built, getting everything prepared and registrations and dealing with parents and just everything that goes into hosting these camps. But while the camp's actually going on, we've seen you down on the field helping with coaching, kind of getting to share some of your experience, some of your knowledge about the game. How much fun is it for you to kind of be on both sides of that?
Well, it's awesome. I mean, I actually grew up coming to these camps when my dad was running them, and then I've actually seen each camp transition from head coach or camp director to camp director. And we've certainly had a good, the Matt Cadas, some former Express players that have run camp, but it's certainly fun, being out there with the kids and kind of doing both ends, coaching, and then also putting up the administration side.
Well, as any great coach would do, you teed us up for our next question there a second ago. Kat Osterman, 2-time Olympian. She's going to be joining us for our softball camp. That'll be August 3rd through 6th. Tell us kind of more about Kat's involvement in that camp and how exciting it is that somebody with her resume will be joining us later this summer.
Yeah, so I actually came on board, of course, in 2018, but I tried to get her then. I tried to get her in 2019. Of course, she was still coach at Texas State, and so there were some NCAA guidelines there that we couldn't really host her. But now that she's pushing for this Olympic run and no longer coach at Texas State, we were able to snag her, and a great friend, a great coach. I'm excited to have her out, and I really do think it's going to just boost that softball camp.
I mean, you look at the game of softball, what better mentor and leader and coach than somebody like Kat. So that's definitely going to be exciting. All that information online at expresscamps.com. Chase, I want to get through with you as well. Of course, Governor of the state of Texas kind of outlining different safety procedures, different protocols. The safety of everybody, of the campers, of the parents that are dropping their kids off, of our staff is paramount always, and especially now when we're dealing with this public health crisis. But can you kind of go through some of the different safety procedures that have been implemented over the last couple of weeks to make sure that everybody involved is staying safe?
Exactly. So yesterday, we actually had a great first run at camps. We didn't really know what we were going to expect with everything, but I'll kind of give you a rundown from start to finish. So when campers arrive, those parents will drop them off curbside. We'll have a coach there that'll shoot them right directly to the field. Once they're on the field, those kids will be placed in a group, max of 8 kids, with 2 coaches, and that'll be their group for not only the entire day, but for the entire week, just to minimize exposure between other groups and coaches. If by any means one kid was to get sick, at least it's just stationed within that group versus spreading to the entire camp. Yesterday was great. Coaches were great. Everything went well, and even the curbside checkout procedure was fantastic. And we had, all of our staff on board to help with that. I can't thank them enough.
Well, I was going to say, Chase, kudos to you. I mean, there's so many moving parts here and an unknown territory for really everybody. So congratulations on a great first day of camp. Looking forward to a lot more of that coming up this summer. Last thing I want to ask you about before we go, we touched on it a minute ago, but of course you kind of grew up at Dell Diamond and spent a lot of time here as a kid. So I'm sure you have a bunch of memories from the stadium, but what are some that really stand out for you as particularly memorable from your time at Dell Diamond so far?
Exactly. So one of the first pictures I have here at Dell Diamond is me doing baseball buddies at the age of 6, I would say, during T-ball, which is funny to see, baseball buddies to playing a bat boy at the stadium. And, it's no secret anymore, but I was a bullpen catcher for some of my time during my high school and college days, and catching people like Neftali Feliz and just the big names you get to be around. But my favorite memory, I think, so far has definitely been in 2015 when my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer, and just how the team really rallied around, our family. We really felt that support in such a dire time. When the guys came out with JA on their hat, kudos to Brett Nicholas and just that group of guys and that run, the 2015 playoff run. It was a very special year, especially with everything that was going on in our family. But, that's definitely, I hold that dear to my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a fun, very special. Even that was my first year with the Express was 2016, and so to see kind of the tail end of that and how everybody kind of rallied around you and your dad and your family was just a really cool thing to be a part of. Chase, man, we really appreciate you taking the time. Great to chat with you. Great to hear about camps. Can't wait to see you in person here pretty soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
That's Chase Almendarez. He's the manager of baseball operations as well as the director of Express Camps, joining us here on Sidetracked, presented by HEB. We're going to throw it to a quick 60-second commercial break and come back with Houston Astros MLB.com beat reporter Brian McTaggart right after this.
It's here, in this place we love. It drives us and defines us. A passion to be the best. It's why we're here, and it's what you deserve. St. David's Healthcare. The best is here.
Welcome back into Sidetracked, presented by Dell Technologies. My name is Andrew Feltz, and over the last several years, the United Heritage Credit Union has been such a great supporter of so many different Round Rock Express theme nights, so we wanted to take just a minute to highlight UHCU as our sponsor shout-out this week. And although UHCU branch lobbies remain temporarily closed, drive-through lanes are open at select locations throughout Central Texas. In the meantime, UHCU is encouraging their members to use electronic banking when available, either online or on their mobile devices. They've also set up a great resource for help with payment protection program, stimulus information, and loan assistance information online at uhcu.org. Check out that website. A ton of great financial resources available. On behalf of everyone at the Round Rock Express, we want to extend a big thank you to UHCU for not only being a great supporter of the Express and our different theme nights, but also a pillar in our community for over 60 years. But with that, we're going to transition into our batting cleanup segment presented by Whataburger. We're excited now to welcome in Brian McTaggart. He is the beat reporter for the Houston Astros for MLB.com. He's covered the team for the last 17 seasons, including 12 with MLB.com. Brian, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. How are things down there in Houston?
Well, we're doing well, just like everybody else, sort of waiting to see if we're going to get some baseball this year. We're into June now, so we should be in the middle of the season. So fingers crossed. Hopefully, we get something here soon. Other than that, just hanging in like everybody else.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same thing here, waiting and fingers crossed and hoping, and we'll see. And that's the first thing I want to jump into. Of course, the biggest kind of task at hand pertains to baseball. The MLB owners and the MLB Players Association kind of going back and forth. It's been somewhat of a kind of a public discourse with social media and different sides saying different things. So I'm curious if you could just kind of give us an update as to where we stand as of this afternoon.
Yeah, well, the players delivered a proposal to the league over the weekend on Sunday night. It's expected to be rejected, which is their first proposal. So we're kind of still in the negotiating phase here. But basically, the players want a longer season than the league had and the owners had proposed. They had proposed an 82-game schedule. The players want a 114-game schedule that starts June 30th, runs through the end of October. Of course, more games means more money. And they would be willing to defer some of their money if the playoffs are canceled for whatever reason. And one of the interesting things in there was they're willing to mic themselves up during some games. I think we've seen some of that in All-Star games and so forth, and I think that would really resonate with the fans. But the thing is, we're in crunch time right here, and the one thing the players are still not budging on is salary cuts. So that is going to be a big sticking point from here on out. They still have a lot of health and safety protocols to work through as well, but it certainly appears that money is going to be the big thing on this side because the owners are losing a lot of money. The players are going to have to, they've already taken one pay cut. They don't want to take another pay cut. But if they want to start the season by June 30th, we're in June now, so that's 4 weeks away, and they want to have a 3-week spring training. So I think we're probably looking at a week maybe before we get an answer. Maybe if the season can get fired up in June 30th or early July. But, right now it's pretty much down to crunch time at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on there's just so many layers of this and so many different angles and different proposals. But as you mentioned, one of those kind of talking points that's been going back and forth is the length of the season. I think the owners originally had proposed 82 games. The players came back and said 114. So you got to think it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. But either way, it's not going to be the full 162-game schedule that we're used to. So I'm curious, being ingrained with the Astros, and you know how much talent's on that team and how many guys they returned from the 107-win club from last year, but do you think it might end up being an advantage for a team like Houston that the season's maybe a little bit shorter? You can kind of get more value out of that top talent?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they've already got an advantage in that they were going to start the season with Justin Verlander on the DL. I mean, he was going to miss probably the first 2 months of the season, so it looks like he'll definitely be healthy when the season starts. But, Lance McCullers Jr. coming off Tommy John surgery, there was questions about how many innings will he be able to pitch? Is there going to be a cap on his innings? Well, if you play 82, whether even 114 games, you're probably going to be able to throw Lance McCullers Jr. out there and unleash him and let him, pitch, deep into games as you want. So that would be an advantage as well. Jordan Alvarez's knees were hurting in spring training, so he's had a couple of months to get that situation underway. But yeah, I mean, I think with a couple of aging pitchers at the top of the rotation and Verlander and Greinke both still at the top of their game, they can pitch, if the season goes into October or the playoffs in November, they're still going to be probably fresher than they've been in a long time pitching that deep into the season. And a lot of teams are going to be that as well. But the one thing about a short season is one injury could really derail you. I mean, if George Springer goes down for 2 months, that is going to be a huge chunk of your season. And if they're going to play double headers, that's multiple games. He could miss a week, more than 7, maybe 8, 9 games a week if they're going to play multiple double headers or whoever gets injured. So injuries are going to be a big concern. But yeah, I do think a shortened season, just with the pitching that the Astros have, sets them up. I mean, they're going to be good anyway. They return so many guys from a team, like you said, that won 117 games. They're going to be loaded. They're going to be rested like everybody else, and they're going to be right there as one of the teams to beat.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on the kind of the injury standpoint. I mean, it's a real factor to consider in all of this. And, I think, again, with an organization like Houston, we've seen here in Round Rock just how much talent there is at the upper levels of the minor leagues. And, of course, that exists already in Houston. But kind of taking that whole thing full picture, you look at these different proposals. And I know one of the things that was discussed was expanding the active roster from 26 to 30. The inclusion of a taxi squad that could maybe be another 20 guys. So you look at maybe another 25-ish guys that are going to be right on the doorstep to be able to play in 2020. I'm curious for you, who do you think are some of those guys that really could benefit from this new kind of roster structure that's been proposed?
Yeah, I think we're looking at guys who were, probably very familiar to Round Rock fans. Nick Tanielu, he was in spring training, didn't get a whole lot of playing time. Well, nobody did. I think they played about 10 games before, we were shut down there. Taylor Jones had a very good camp. A lot of the veterans were talking about him, hitting how hard he was hitting the ball. He opened up a lot of eyes. I think he's a guy that could be pretty vital if we see these expanded rosters, a guy that could get a shot. It bodes very well for Garrett Stubbs. Obviously, the Astros have two veteran catchers in Martin Maldonado and Dustin Garneau. And Stubbs, who has shown some versatility, playing a little outfield. There was talk of him playing some second base this spring. Don't know if that ever happened before it got shut down, but definitely they're going to carry a third catcher, and that would be Garrett Stubbs. And you look at the pitching side, a guy like Brandon Bielak, is he going to be on the extra group of pitchers, a guy who can take that next step, pitch in the big leagues? Boris Whitley, of course, everyone's waiting for the debut of Boris Whitley. Of course, he's got a lot of things to iron out. He was working on his mechanics again this spring, but he's somebody I think they would give a look at as well. Some guys that would normally not get a shot, I think, are going to get some shots here. And I've been communicating with some of the minor league players who are sort of anxious to find out what is going on, what the roster is going to look like. There's some guys who are really on pins and needles right now, waiting to see if they're going to get added to these expanded rosters and get a shot to be a big leaguer, because some guys are going to get some opportunities that they might not have otherwise, for sure.
We are visiting with Brian McTaggart. He is a beat reporter for the Houston Astros for MLB.com here on Sidetracked, presented by Whataburger. Brian, I'm glad you touched on spring training. Really, that early March, first week of March, really kind of was everything kind of came to a head as far as sports and baseball specifically was concerned, with cancellations and suspensions and kind of setting the foundation for where we are today. Can you take us through what it was like out down there in West Palm Beach at spring training, kind of in the days leading up to the suspension?
Yeah, it was strange because we're down there at spring training and it's baseball 24/7, and you hear about the coronavirus. You come home and turn on to the hotel and you turn on the TV and it's on the news and it's sort of in the background, not something that you're really paying any attention to. And then probably a couple of weeks into camp, some reporters started to ask some questions about coronavirus. Are you worried about it? Everyone still was dismissing it and brushing it off, like I was as well. It was still something that was happening elsewhere. And then all of a sudden it became like front and center. I had actually left and gone home. I was going to take a 5-day break and come home. So I left camp on a Monday morning, and by Tuesday, they had instituted a policy of no media in the clubhouse. We could do interviews, but they had to be 6 feet apart. So I was watching this from afar, and then by Thursday, the camps were shut down. So it happened really fast. For me, I had just left before that. So I had to get I still had a hotel room in Florida. So I had to get my hotel room packed up and have my stuff shipped to me. But it was pretty surreal seeing just how fast that all the leagues decided within a span of a couple of days, after playing games in front of fans and having 60 guys in the clubhouse, and there were tons of media in the Astros clubhouse this year for obvious reasons. So all of a sudden things are shut down and everybody goes home. And if you would have told me 3 months later we would still be in the same situation, that would have been hard to believe. But here we are. But hopefully things are starting to look a little bit better. And there's serious negotiations, as we talked about earlier, to get the game going again. And I think everyone's ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we are too. And just like you said, just such a surreal week that was. And you see the NBA and college basketball, and you're kind of taking the lead from other sports. But just strange time. And, we've all had to pivot and get creative and come up with different new ways to stay engaging with our fans and stay relevant and, of course, be in contact with those folks. But one of the things I want to ask you about that you and your fellow beat reporters across MLB.com have been doing is kind of ranking some of the top players at each position for the club. I'm curious, how much fun has that been for you to kind of go back through all that Astros history and look at guys and kind of spark that debate and get the conversation going on social media?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And, the Astros have a rich history. And, so basically every Monday we run a story that started 8 weeks ago, where we go basically position by position. And I rank the top 5 players in Astros history, what I think are at each position. And we run a poll with it, and the fans get to chime in. And it's interesting to see the different opinions that fans have. And there's always going to be some recency bias, guys that pitched or played in the 60s, 70s, and even the 80s, aren't getting as many votes as the guys in this day and age. But still, players like Alex Bregman, I had ranked as their best third baseman already. Carlos Correa, their best shortstop already. And then you look at second base, where you had Biggio and Altuve at second base. I picked Biggio, of course, because he's in the Hall of Fame, but that could change in a couple of years. It's been a lot of fun. I'd say the toughest one was right-handed starting pitchers last week. Talk about a deep group with Roy Oswalt there, Nolan Ryan, Verlander, Clemens, Garrett Cole, Joe Niekro. I could go on. And that was really one of the ones that sparked a lot of the debate that ran last week. People were saying, I can't believe you didn't have Clemens in your top 5. And I didn't have an argument for him. I'm like, you could put all these names in a hat and spin them any way you want. But I did have Oswalt ranked number 1 just because of his longevity and how he had a couple of 20-win seasons. On Monday, the left-handed starting pitchers is going to come out. Also a deep group as well with, guys like, Bob Nepper, Mike Hampton, of course, Dallas Keuchel, who I picked number 1 on my list. And, guys like Randy Johnson, who only pitched 11 games for the Astros. But there were a lot of people on Twitter saying, why isn't Randy Johnson in your poll? I only had 4 spots in my poll. So, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And next week we're going to do relief pitchers, and that'll be it. But yeah, it's been, it's been fun to crack open the media guide and look at the history books and see who ranks where, and, some names you may have forgotten about. Get to throw those out there and maybe educate some of the new Astros fans about some of the team's great players in the past.
Well, it's been incredibly fun to read, and just like you just said, some of the names you forget about. You have so much history, and of course, so much success recently. You kind of forget about some of the guys from the previous eras, and it's been fun to read through and keep track of. But kind of in that same vein, I want to ask you just your personal perspective. We talked to Julie Morales about this a couple weeks ago, but I mean, you've been with the club since 2004. You've seen really that mid-2000s, kind of the Killer Bees era, the lean years of the last early 2010s, and then, of course, the kind of the golden age that they're in right now. But what's it been like for you just to be kind of a part of this franchise over the last 2 decades or so?
Yeah, well, I tell people that I've covered pretty much everything there is to cover as a beat writer, from changing leagues to changing spring training sites, changing uniforms. I've covered 300 win seasons in a row, 300 loss seasons in a row. A team that won the World Series, a team that lost the World Series. So I've seen just about a little bit of everything. And it's really hard to believe how much has happened to the Astros in the last decade. I'm sure every team feels that way. But, when I started covering the Astros, I walked in the clubhouse and it was Bagwell, Biggio, Berkman, Roy Oswalt, Jeff Kent, Clemens was there, Pettit, Brad Lidge. There were stars at every corner. And then, in 2013, there were guys that people had never heard of playing all over the field, and there was, the attendance was down. Of course, they were rebuilding, and Jose Altuve was kind of the only player I think that anybody knew who was aware of. And then just a couple of years later, they get back to the playoffs. So, and then all the stuff that's gone on off the field as well with the Astros over the last couple of years. So it's been a pretty amazing ride for sure. And, I think there's going to be some interesting days ahead because this team is built to win. I mean, this season gets going, the Astros could win the World Series this year. And then it's going to get challenging because they're going to have some big contracts. They're going to start losing some guys. They can't keep everybody. So, and we know their farm system's taken a little bit of a hit with the trades they've made, and they've lost their first and second round picks the last couple of years. So it's going to get really challenging for them to remain competitive at the level they're at now. But I think in 50 years, people are going to look back on these few years we're in right now of Astros history and marvel at just how good this team was.
Well, Brian, you can add covering a team during a global pandemic to that list as well, which is
just when I think I've covered everything, something else comes along. Yeah,
exactly. Well, hey, Brian, the last thing I want to ask you about. Big thing on social media here in Round Rock last season. We had a couple of guys in our clubhouse, Nick Tanielu, who's coming up on the show, Miles Straw, Alex Degody. These guys started having some fun conducting their own post-game interviews on social media, on Twitter, Instagram. They kind of come up with some alter egos for some of the reporters that were in the clubhouse. One of the very first names that we saw was a guy by the name of Dean McTaggart. So I'm curious, what was your reaction when you saw that? And then is there anything that you would need to pass along to Tanielu that we can facilitate here this afternoon?
Yeah, I thought it was funny. When I think I first saw it on Twitter, and I'm like, what is going on here? And I watched the video, and I say, okay, I see where they're going with this. But yeah, they had a lot of fun with it. Hey, I like the questions. I mean, they played pretty good reporters, and when Chris Almendarez put out the press pass, I think tweeted out a picture of a press pass for Dean McTaggart. I was like, well, this thing is taking on a life of its own. But no, it was fun. I'm glad those guys are having fun with it. And yeah, as far as a message to Nick, when he cracks that big league roster, and maybe I can do a real interview after a big league game, and have Brian McTaggart actually interview him instead of Dean McTaggart. So he might get that chance this year. Who knows?
That's awesome. It was like you said with Chris, and just for our staff to be, at least in the realm of all this that was going on, it was so much fun to see, and just such a loose clubhouse. These guys all just bonded.
Yeah, it's good. It's good practice for them too, because I know they don't get nearly as much media attention as they do when they come to the big league. So hey, if they interview each other, they get all the more prepared when I stick a microphone in their face.
Exactly. There you go. It's mutually beneficial for everybody. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time. Really great insight. We appreciate catching up and kind of going through where we are today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You guys hang in there.
Yes, sir. You too. That's Brian McTaggart. He's a Houston Astros beat reporter for MLB.com. Joining us here on Sidetracked, presented by Whataburger. We're going to throw it to a quick break and come back with the aforementioned Nick Tanielu right after this.
You'll find it in workshops and office buildings, kitchens, and classrooms. A passion to be the best. That's why you live here, and that's why we care here. St. David's Healthcare. The best is here.
Welcome back into Sidetracked, presented by Dell Technologies. My name is Andrew Feltz. Excited now for the closer segment presented by Pepsi. We're welcoming in infielder for your Round Rock Express, Nick Tanielu. Nick, great to see you. How is life treating you?
Hey, good to see you, Andrew. Good, man. I can't complain. I had a baby boy over during this pandemic stuff, so I'm just enjoying the time with him and trying to find time for workouts and all that. But really just bearing down and enjoying family time while I can.
Well, that's the first thing I wanted to ask you about. First of all, congratulations. That's awesome news to hear. We were so excited when we saw that on social media. How's the first, few months and weeks of dad life treating you?
It's good, man. I mean, it's day by day, honestly. Just with big thing for me and my family was just like the sleeping arrangement kind of changing, just trying to find ways to get your sleep in while you can. But at the end of the day, at that time being in the middle of the night, you're like, oh, man, I wish I could sleep. But then you wake up the next morning, you see him smiling and, up and at it. So that motivates you, and it's just a fun time being around. I'm glad. I hate that this is going on in the U.S., but I'm glad that I was able to be home and being able to spend, time in his first couple months of his life.
Well, that's awesome. That's what I was going to say. It's trying to find silver linings, right? And getting to be at home and the family time. And, man, that's awesome. It's, blessing in disguise maybe that you're able to be at home.
Oh, definitely. Definitely a blessing in disguise.
Well, I want to ask, too, we've asked so many of our players that we've had on over the last couple weeks. Of course, everything's different. Life's different for everybody. But I'm curious, how you're staying in shape, how you're staying game ready. Do you have a high school gym maybe you can go use? Or what's kind of your training looked like over the last couple weeks?
I had a key to my facilities. I've had it for a couple of years now. So I've been able to go up there and hit and get my workouts in there. So I was fortunate enough. I know some people weren't as fortunate in certain situations. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go up there and continue my workouts. Really things I haven't missed a beat really with mine. So I'm very thankful for that. Definitely compared to, a few other guys that I've talked to that I've played with, and they had to struggle at first, but things are starting to open up now. So certain guys are being able to get more stuff in. So I'm happy for those guys.
Yeah, definitely. I want to take you back to 2019, arguably one of the best years of your professional career. Suited up for the Express 125 times. I got my notes here. You set new career highs in total bases, doubles, home runs, RBIs, walks, and runs scored. awesome year, stats-wise, awesome year on the field. Take us through, looking back, how would you kind of grade your 2019 season?
You know, it's bittersweet in the sense of certain few things. I mean, you play to win the game. We came up short in the championship, and I've never won a championship. I've come up short many times, back-to-back years in the championship series in AAA. In low A, we had a really, really good team, one of the best teams in the minor leagues. Got beat in the first round. So I mean, the biggest thing for me is I've always wanted to win a championship. When we failed at that last year, was hoping to get a run at it again this year, but who knows. But overall, individually, it was good. There's always times as a player where you go through slumps and you go through certain things, but I think the Round Rock staff, the players that we had and it was just make it easier to come to the field during those times. And then you start to get in the thick of things, and you start swinging the bat well, and it just went well for me. And I think I owe it to a lot of things, just the work I put in the off season before with my dad, the work that me and Rosenthal put in spring training going into the year. Just a lot of people to thank, too many off the top of my head, but overall, it was a fun experience, man. Round Rock was, way different than the Fresno experience for me, so I had a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it a whole lot.
That's awesome. Well, it was a heck of a year for us, our staff, and just to be able to be a part of that and all the success that you guys had. There were so many games, so many moments that just were really fun. But going back to kind of your individual accomplishments, you talk about getting hot at the right time, but it seemed like, kind of from my vantage point, the last maybe month or 6 weeks of the season, you just could do no wrong. You were hitting the ball really well, seeing the ball well. Was there anything kind of as Round Rock, caught up to San Antonio, made it back to the playoffs, went through that playoff run? Was there anything for you that you think was working particularly well, or it's just one of those streaks where you're feeling good at the end of the year?
I remember it was August 1st, I had a chat with Degody, and that's Alex Degody for fans. But Alex Degody is a very strong-minded and just a very good leader. So I always reach out to him in certain times, because he always has great information, and he'll pick you up when you're down certain times. So I talked to him on August 1st. I remember exactly. And I said, man, we gotta go. Like, speaking of me and him, like, we need to go off this month. And both of us did. We both had very, very good August months. And I think what contributed to that was us just having belief in each other and belief in the team, but also the San Antonio, like you're speaking, trying to chase them down, and then finally getting to that huge series we had and taking, I think, what was it? We took 3 out of 4.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And ended up taking the lead and holding on to it. So I think that was huge. We all were motivated by just trying to catch them and make the playoffs, because we always play for individually, because you're trying to make it to the big leagues. But I think bigger thing was that team played for the city of Round Rock, because the fans were so great. The staff was great. The staff would always ask if we needed anything. And as a player, hearing that, seeing that just makes you want to go out and play for a certain team like that. So it was always good to try to go out and get a W for Round Rock.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. One of my favorite memories from the 2019 season happened in just our second home game. Round Rock in Nashville, tie game, 5-5, bottom of the 10th inning. I think there was an intentional walk, maybe another walk after that. But here you come, bases loaded, walk-off grand slam into left field. Take us through, man, what do you remember from that game? What do you remember from that at-bat?
What I remember mostly about that moment for me was I had a really hot spring, and I really had high hopes. And then I came into the season kind of slumping. And I just remember going up to that at-bat thinking, it's a lefty. I love seeing lefties. Just try to put a ball in the air, honestly. And I just got the bat head out and hit it well. I knew it was going to be a homer from the jump because I hit it so well. But for me, it was more of like a relief, because I think I was pressing a little too hard. And for me to do that, for one, hit a walk-off, which was my first walk-off in pro ball, and then for it to be a home run and especially a grand slam was big for me. And I enjoyed it. The guys are great. We had a lot of fun with that. And that was like the entire year. I feel like we were walking off a lot, and it's just – walking off with those guys around you, once you get in the locker room, a lot of things the fans don't see. It's just, it's awesome, man. We had a lot of fun with that team, and I cherish that forever.
I definitely want to get into that here in a minute, but we are visiting with Nick Tanielu, infielder for your Round Rock Express here on Sidetracked, presented by Pepsi. Nick, we just wrapped up with Brian McTaggart, of course, the Astros beat writer, MLB.com. You know, we had to ask him about the whole Dean McTaggart, the clubhouse interviews, post-game, you and Miles Straw and Alex Degody. It's just, again, that was another fun thing for us and for our staff to be a part of. But take us through kind of how that came about and, you know, tell the fans that maybe didn't see some of that what that was like for you guys.
I mean, for the fans that don't know, like, I know they see us play every night and they kind of put like personalities with certain people, but we had the team had a lot of clowns. Honestly, I was one of them. I can't lie to you. Straw, one of them. We had a lot of them, man. We just kind of, I don't know, man. I think Straw might have been the ringleader, me and him, and then Degody kind of got in there. And I thought it was fun because, for one, the Snapchat filters make it funny, but also it gives fans the extra behind the scenes look of like what's going on in the locker room, how a person is, what kind of personality they might have. So that was always fun for me because you see it in the big leagues, guys are getting interviewed after every game. So to give like a AAA affiliate, like Round Rock fans, a little sight to see of inside the locker room right after a game, right after a win, or maybe, you know, right after like chasing down San Antonio, certain stuff like that, I thought was always fun. And, you know, we always had fun with it.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I from my side in the communications role, it was so much fun to see because you had a lot of big games where maybe, you know, we compete with UT football and high school football, and there's other sporting events in town that kind of pull our media partners to different things. But like Kyle Tucker's 30-30 when he got that 30th steal, just to see you guys in the locker room and asking him about it and having fun with it, it was fun for us to be a part of that.
Kyle, Dean McTaggart here with Round Rock Chronicle. 30 homers, 30 stolen bases. Walk us what that moment felt like.
It was awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely. And for the names, you know, we're going to go after the big dogs in the big leagues and kind of throw our twist on it. So, and we knew they'd like it. McTaggart and Kaplan and Chandler Rome and all those guys, they have great personalities. So we knew they wouldn't be minded. They'd get a laugh out of it too. And, you know, McTaggart and all them, they still talk about it to this day. So it's fun. You know, we're just having fun with it, man, trying to get by each and every day. It's a lot of games. So you try to have as much fun as you can.
Well, Brian told us just a minute ago, he's looking forward to the day that in the Houston Astros clubhouse, Dean McTaggart and Brian McTaggart can, you know, interview each other and finally come full circle on that deal.
Oh, tell him I'm right there with him.
That's awesome. Well, Nick, I want to kind of go back. We started to touch on it a little bit, but that clubhouse just seemed like it was so tight-knit. All you guys that kind of grew up in the Astros organization and you've advanced up the farm system together and been on a lot of really successful teams. Take us through kind of that bond that you guys have and how important you think that is for the on-field success that we've seen at all the levels of the Astros organization over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you do come up with guys and you play with them in AA, or, you know, a lot of these guys that played with each other last year, a lot of them have played with each other since high and low A. Mm-hmm. I played with most of them since AA. I think you just build a tight bond, and then when you build a friendship and a bond like that, and you trust someone, when you go out on the field, it just makes things easier. You know, when you have that core, and I think our infield had a really tight core. We were all really close. Same with the outfield. Mm-hmm. Pitchers are different because there's so many that come up and down. You know, you still have your core that's been there with you the whole year, but it might only be 4 of them that have been there the entire year. So they're a little bit different. Pitchers are the ones you have to get used to all the time, rotating and switching up. But I think, you know, with that core and the staff we had with Mick and them by the end of the year, you know, Mick making things easy for us if our body was hurting, or, you know, if we needed more reps, he would be there for us. Same with Rosie and Frenchie and Rock, who's no longer with us. But, you know, it's just a great staff. And Petey, it's just a great staff who always, you know, were there for us, you know, the players. And I think that doing that kind of stuff, it makes you not only want to play, it makes you want to win more for those type of guys. And I think that's what happened for us.
Yeah, that is awesome. Great perspective. Nick, the last thing I want to ask you about, we talked about a couple of these moments, but your first full-time year playing at Del Diamond, playing for the Round Rock Express, any kind of memories or games or kind of specific moments that stand out to you as particularly special?
Let's see here. Oh, man. Trying to think.
I kind of spoiled the surprise. It's hard to top a walk-off grand slam, right?
No, there's a lot of them. I mean, there's some great moments. When Jack hit 3 homers, that was a huge night. I enjoyed that night a lot because you don't get to see that very often. I'd say I'd say another cool thing that I enjoyed was Kent. There was a time where Kent was pretty much unhittable for like a month. It felt like. So every night we suited up with him, it was always great. You always knew that you had a shot to win. But I'd say when we beat San Antonio, that whole time for baseball, especially with the fans and what was on the line and what was at stake. Yeah, and I enjoyed like basically the Round Rock staff, basically like having sign-up sheets for like you being able to, and it'd be quick. It wasn't too much. It was like, you go outside 20 minutes before the game, or 20 minutes before you had to be out for the game, and maybe sign some autographs or talk to some fans or talk to some kids. And I always enjoyed that because as a kid growing up, going to minor league games in my area, you think so highly of these guys. And I always enjoyed that because you might never know who's in that crowd. You never know who is going to be somebody out of that crowd as a baseball player or anything. So that was always fun to me to kind of give back to the fans and the kids about that.
Well, Nick, I'm glad you said that. That's a great way to end it. I mean, for us as our organization, that's what we're all about, is giving back to the community, making our organization accessible to especially the young fans and those guys. So to hear you say something like that and to see you guys be so willing and eager to sign up and do those things, man, that means so much to us. So thank you from that front.
I appreciate it, man. It ain't no problem for me.
Well, Nick, great to chat with you. Enjoy the family time. Hang in there. I can't wait to see you here pretty soon. Thanks so much for taking the time this afternoon.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it, man. Stay safe out there.
Yes, sir. That is Nick Tanielu, infielder for your Round Rock Express, joining us here on Sidetracked, presented by Pepsi. Well, as always, we're committed to staying connected with you, the fans, and giving back to our community, even though there's no baseball going on out at Dell Diamond right now. But one of the first things we want to highlight, as we mentioned earlier in the show with Chase, is our Express camps that we're excited to be able to offer this summer. We have 8 different summer camps for baseball and softball available through the end of the summer, available to kids of all ages, all skill levels. The next camp is an elite camp that begins next Wednesday, June 10th. Of course, we have a softball camp coming up as well, August 3rd through 6th. As we mentioned, will be coached by 2-time Olympian Kat Osterman. For all the information about Express camps, to see the different safety procedures that we've implemented, and to register your kids today, please visit expresscamps.com. Well, if you missed our Hairy Man episode last week, we asked fans to submit photos of their best quarantine beards online at rrexpress.com. We've collected some of our favorites. Those are up now. We need your help picking the best fan quarantine beard. Voting is going to be open from now through Friday, and on next Monday, we're going to announce a winner. That lucky person's going to receive some great Hairy Man merch, as well as an autographed baseball from Houston Astros, Jack Mayfield, and Chris Davinsky. Speaking of Hairy Man merch, we've got an entire line of great Hairy Man merchandise available through the Railyard team store. Once again, check out rrexpress.com for all that information. Speaking of the Railyard team store, I want to extend one final reminder about our Railyard team store item of the week presented by Viatran. It is our Rojo Johnson Mustache Tee, available for $30 as we continue to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Rojo's pitching appearance at Dell Diamond. Well, again, check out rrexpress.com to see the entire lineup of Round Rock Express merchandise, as well as Rojo Johnson merchandise. And when you're checking out, be on the lookout for our curbside pickup option. You can pick up all your Express merch from the safety of your vehicle right outside the Railyard team store. That's going to do it for our series finale here of Sidetracked, presented by Dell Technologies. I want to extend a big thank you to each and every one of you who tuned in, checked out the show each week. We sincerely appreciate your support. Hope we had fun talking about baseball with different guests, and we hope you did too. Provide a little bit of a baseball fix when all of us are missing our favorite sport so much right now. I'd like to extend a big thank you to all of our guests that joined us over the last 8 weeks, including our 3 guests here this afternoon today. Round Rock Express Manager of Baseball Operations Chase Almendarez, Houston Astros beat reporter for MLB.com Brian McTaggart, and of course Round Rock Express infielder Nick Tanielu. Thanks also go out to Dell Technologies and L2 Productions. Both of those organizations have been instrumental in getting this show up off the ground. There's so many other folks that work behind the scenes to make this show make the show what it is, make me look better when I can't stumble through my words. But a specific thank you to Scott Railing, Martin Winterstrom, Steve Richards, and the entire Round Rock Express marketing staff. Those folks have been instrumental in putting this show together and providing it to you each and every week here on Facebook Live. One final reminder, too, just because we're going away doesn't mean you're going to be devoid of Express information. Check us out on social media right here on Facebook, over on Twitter, on Instagram, and now on TikTok. All the great places for you to pick up the latest Express news. And, of course, if you haven't subscribed to the E-Train newsletter, You can do that by visiting rrexpress.com. You'll get the latest news, notes, information straight to your inbox each and every week. Well, we don't know when baseball will come back to Del Diamond or what that might look like, but we know it will. It'll be sometime in the future, hopefully sooner rather than later. In the meantime, we want to wish everybody stay safe, stay healthy, take care of each other. On behalf of everyone at the Round Rock Express, my name is Andrew Feltz. We can't wait to see you soon.